to Disambiguation. I'm your host, Michael Fawcett. Each week we interview experts in AI, generative AI, and business automation to help business leaders understand how to use these tools for the biggest business impact. In our show today, we look at assessing your AI maturity. I'm joined by Reddy Mallidi, partner and COO at Seventrain Ventures and author of the upcoming book, AI Unleashed, a practical guide to unlock AI's transformative potential. Welcome, Reddy.
Oh, great to be here. Thank you for the opportunity, Michael.
Okay. Well, I'm excited to talk about this today, and so we'll jump right in. But this is something I haven't done a show on, but it is something that I've been really interested in, honestly, across technology adoption for years. So I think this could be a really beneficial framework for people to think about their business and how they're progressing with the use of AI. So why don't we start, though, by you just briefly introduce yourself, talk about your role at Seventrain Ventures, and then talk about a little bit about your background in AI.
Sounds great, Michael. I feel very blessed to have had the fantastic experience, both as a technologist and as a business leader that spanned over 25 years at Intel, ADP, Autodesk, and I led anywhere from product development, Pentium 3, many years ago, to leading organizations, operations, digital transformation, etc. I was able to achieve, with the help of my teams, the top 1% in operational excellence, customer experience, employee engagement, etc. When it comes to my AI journey, Michael, it started 30 plus years ago when I was in graduate school getting my computer science degree, taking some neural networks class. And myself and one of my friends, we developed a little game for testing smoking habits for a psychology lab. This was a long time back. And then I had the opportunity to take the Moore's Law, advance it as Pentium 3 product manager and beyond at Intel, where I spent a considerable amount of my time. And when I joined ADP and managing two business units as the COO, this is the beginning when you start to hear data science team. And what I did was actually initiated a data science team because I was looking to leverage data, the insights. Fast forward a few years later, there was a time when I was starting export compliance function at Autodesk, and we had to screen over 50 million records pretty regularly. And that was a monumental task. If you had to do it with manual operations, we would have required 900 people. And we built our own machine learning models. And this was prior to having the LLMs, the large language models. You don't have that facility. And we built our own models and automated this screening fully, 99.7%. And instead of 900 people, we ended up with 10 people. And we did it very efficiently. So my journey into the AI, it started 25 years ago, but now I'm seeing the practicality of it quite a bit. And at Seventrain Ventures, I developed over 600 use cases with AI and automation, and I work with clients in healthcare, financial services, and other industries where I continuously match between the AI capabilities, what can be done to solve business challenges. At the end of the day, the technology exists to solve business problems, help humans to do the things better, where we can relegate those less interesting tasks to the machines. That's where I believe the AI can really help us and the businesses to go to the next level.
Yeah, that that makes sense. I think a lot of opportunity and a lot of interesting use cases. So I think as we think about this, let's talk a little bit first about maturity itself and how how we could think about this so that we can sort of look at the rest of the developments we've seen in businesses. So what are the key dimensions of AI maturity, and then why do you think it's essential for businesses to understand that maturity framework?
Yeah, so Michael, when I'm looking at this, is just like any other technologies, the maturity, the stages of the maturity at any organization is into the awareness, exploration. First, let me give you the five phases of the maturity level.
Mhm.
One is the awareness. The second one is the exploration phase. The third one is the implementation. Fourth one is optimization, and the last one is transformation. Let me give a few nuggets about each of these
Yeah.
five stages. The first
Mhm.
one is organizations heard about AI or any technology for that matter. And this is when there's a lot of hype within the organization. Hey, I heard um, in the extreme cases, oh, you can completely replace customer service or completely replace all the business analysts. This is a lot of hype happens.
Mhm.
Now you heard, oh, there is no need for any software developers in a few years. Yeah, well, that's the stage when you're inundated with a lot of information. You don't know where the things are real versus hype. And so this
Right.
phase is when you're looking to educate the organization. You are trying to nibble, understand what it is. You don't even have a team. Organizations have a very nascent understanding of the AI. The
Mhm.
focus is on basic research, no dedicated teams. And then when you move to the exploration phase, that's when the organizations are engaging on targeted research
Mhm.
and small scale pilots. And this is, you are trying to learn what is possible. You haven't even scaled it yet.
Mhm.
But then that's the third phase when the organizations are ready to scale because you already did some small pilots. Oh, okay, this can be done. Maybe customer service or some business analytics or maybe explore
Mhm.
compliance, depending on what your business you are in. You learn from those small scale pilot projects, and then you have a designated team, a little bit of budget. This is still smaller, but it is actually meaningful budget you start to have, and then you focus on actionable insights during this
Mhm.
phase. And what happens is when you are getting into the implementation, by then you have aligned your strategic objectives. This is very important. I will cover that in other aspects, but
Mhm.
it's very important that you align your strategic objectives and what the AI can do. That's very, very important. By this time, you already have a cross functional team that is consisting of
Mhm.
data science folks, the business analysts, ethicists, meaning people who are looking at the AI, leveraging AI ethically. You have the governance.
Mhm.
All those things are in place by the time you get to the implementation and you're moving from pilots to scaling.
Right.
And when you get to the fourth phase, this is when you're optimizing. You have reached a level of maturity, and you have in the implementation phase, you went from small pilots to larger scale, maybe one or two
Mhm.
projects at the production level. But then the optimization, you have passed that stage, and you are, hey, how can I go from, hey, it is mature enough, so now you got a lot of learnings, how do you tweak and how do
Mm,
you make your AI to help your business continuously improve, and you're expanding. Let's say you're a global
mm,
organization. It's you might have deployed in one US location. Now you're expanding to the global level. So that's what is happening in the optimization. And then when you reach the final stage, transformation, this is the ultimate thing. You are an industry thought leader in bringing the AI to transform your
mm,
business. And by the way, today, Michael, if you look at less than 1% are in that transformation area. It's everyone is the heard about AI. It's there quite a few. The statistics are not there, but what I'm hearing is 70+% of them are nibbling and then, oh,
mm,
let me give access to my team to chat GPT,
yeah,
this and that. But they are in the awareness or even pre that stage, or some are in the exploration. Very few are in
mm.
implementation. So that's the way I segment the existing scenario outside.
Yeah, that makes sense. So as they're going through this, obviously there are things that they should be aware of that could hinder the progress or, keep them from getting to advancing in this maturity model. So what are some of the common roadblocks that companies are seeing as they're working through this adoption cycle?
This is where, yeah, I touched on the first one a little bit, the strategic objectives, aligning your AI strategy to the business goals. This is a very common thing. Everyone heard, and then, oh, let me play with the chat GPT. But
Mm,
yeah, that's fine. You give access and you're writing this a little bit of a prompt engineering, this and that. But number one is you need to align your strategic, the business goals, to what you want to accomplish with AI. The
mm,
second one is data. This is the age old problem, Michael. We have seen how critical data is. I'll give you an example. I was talking to someone who led the data initiative at McDonald's. McDonald's is one of the largest companies. They serve billions and billions of burgers every year, right?
mm,
But they didn't have visibility into their data. This
mm,
was uh, until 2015 when they had a new CEO. He came and he said, "Oh, I don't even know what my customers like." And there was lack of visibility. And then when you have some visibility, the data is in silos.
mm,
Even if you have access to these silos of data quality issues,
mm.
these are all very, very important things to address
Right.
because it's garbage in and garbage out. We heard this
Mm,
AI machine learning models. If your data is not good, it's like a, in a gas a car, you're putting diesel, and then what is going to happen, right? so
it's
so
going to be
that's
messy.
oh, exactly. And then the car may not run for too long, right?
Yeah.
So the third one is this is on the talent side.
Mm,
Talent side that includes the leadership, understanding what is required to have the talent pool. The
mm,
talent pool for AI, it should be very cross-functional. AI is such a fundamental shift. It is going to impact every aspect from finance to operations, sales, and marketing. And it should not be viewed as it's a technical ability. You can hire a bunch of people with data science degrees or AI degrees, or I mean, there are not many with AI degrees, but AI background in educational background, and then you're done. No, that's not the case. It's a very cross-functional. Having that talent pool that's cross-functional, who understands the business, who understands AI, the technical aspects. So it needs to be built like that. How can it be leveraged? And it should not be seen as a technical domain. I'll give you another example, Michael. I was talking to an SVP of a big mortgage name company, and he was telling years ago he started a data science team, and then he thought, oh, let me go and hire a bunch of people with statistics background, and then he realized, oh, that's not going to work because it's people need to understand the business, and you need to bring regular IT people with infrastructure understanding, people with a statistical model understanding, as well as the business experts who knows the workflows of these mortgage application process and all that stuff. So it's you need to have AI is even bigger than having the data science team challenge. It is you need to have the right talent pool.
Yeah.
And another one, this is so, it's less talked about, but there is so much fear in organizations. I talked to last year, March, I got a call from a friend who works for a big name executive search firm, and she was asking me, Reddy, is my job going to go away? And I walked her through how AI can help simplify job description. She spends days and days, and how it can actually help so it doesn't take as much time. So she becomes more productive and she can complete the tasks faster, and she doesn't need to be writing all the things that she typically spends. She can spend more time working with the hiring manager, understanding the candidates, etc. So going back, the resistance to change, that's huge. There is a lot of fear of job losses. The change management is very, very, very important to Michael. I'll give you an example. When I, 5+ years ago, when I came to Autodesk, we were just starting on automation. And initially, this was apart from the export compliance, this is the pure RPA automation, and we had too many manual processes. And one of the things we started to do was we put a process management team that identified, hey, these are the processes we can simplify. First, you need to simplify the processes, and then see which of the process workflow can be automated, which is more routine. It didn't involve the intelligence automation that would require AI. So initially, going back to the resistance and aligning the teams, people were afraid because, hey, I have a job, and then tomorrow this bot will take away my job. But guess what happened? After we deployed a couple of these bots, our people were doing this cut and paste, and our European team, for example, I'll give you value-added tax. If you had to do, you need to go to 5 different screens, cut and paste the same thing, and now you have a bot that was doing it automatically. So they were thrilled. And once they see how it was helping, they would come up with ideas. And we actually launched a citizenship development program. And believe it or not, a year plus or later, we were
mm,
deploying one bot automation every week and automated
mm,
over 250,000 manual hours. So the moral of that story is you need to make sure that people are aligned.
mm,
There's a lot of fear. People should address it. It doesn't mean AI is not going to disrupt. Yes, some functions are going to be more affected than others, and you will need fewer people in some of those functions. But you
mm,
need to be very forthright, transparent, and address that right away. So
mm,
resistance to change is going to be pretty big. And
mm.
the last one I would say, Michael, you and I have spent considerable amount of time in the technology side. Sometimes we see this so much focus on the technology, enamored on the technology and the
Yeah,
complicated solutions versus keeping it simple and stupid. That
yeah,
coming from the user perspective, the customer perspective, that's very, very important. What problem are you trying to solve? So
right.
those are some of the common roadblocks
Mm,
that are going to hinder businesses in
sure.
achieving higher levels of AI maturity.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it is really hard when you're involved in technology to not get focused on the bright, shiny thing. And
Yeah,
I think, from a business leader perspective, you really do have to focus on what problem you're trying to solve and what outcome you're trying to get versus, gee, I've got this new shiny toy and how can I use this thing? I need to make somebody use it, get excited, right?
right,
Um,
right.
so as I was thinking about this, and you outlined the steps in the process and the maturity, so
Hmm.
levels of maturity. But as a business leader, one of the things that you really need to be able to do is assess yourself against the model. So
Hmm.
do you have a some kind of a process or a way for the business leader to think about how they would actually assess their organization in the context of that model to find their maturity level and build that into their strategy?
I'll give the basic steps. I covered that extensively in my book, Michael. The basic steps any leader with a small team of people can do that. The steps that I give if someone is looking to do the maturity assessment. Number
Mhm,
one, a very simple step is audit. Do an audit, internal audit, to understand the baseline of capabilities.
mm,
Because this is what happens when, especially if your company is very federated and people are experimenting, they have less of a very rigorous process type of organization, then people maybe just someone is experimenting with Zoom. If you go a few years ago, someone may be experimenting with WebEx and someone
right.
on Teams, etc. So you need to understand those basic baseline capabilities and even the skills perspective.
Mm,
Oh, does anyone with AI background? Did anyone take neural networks class, or
mm,
does anyone know prompt engineering? This is like
sure.
once you do it, that's not too difficult to do just to get that baseline understanding. Once you do that, then the next step is evaluate organizational
Mm,
readiness and see where uh, we just talked about the data,
mhm,
the having the cross-functional teams, all those the aspects I just touched on.
sure.
From that, is the organization ready? And
Mm,
then the next step is benchmark against industry standards. Of course, in the AI space, it's changing so fast, especially being in the Bay Area,
mm,
Michael. Uh, but see what the competitive landscape is looking like. Let's
sure.
say you are in a supply chain company, or even the company we were just talking about, McDonald's. What is the
Mm,
supply chain looks like? And
right.
obviously, they need to look at their competitors, small and big. and then say, are they doing supply chain? Are they leveraging AI? What are they doing? Because you don't want to be falling behind. So that's if you have a marketing team, a lot of companies have competitive analysis teams. And so benchmark against your competition and what the landscape is. Now that you got the baseline, your organizational readiness, you understood the competitive landscape in those first three steps. Now, identify the gaps and then opportunities, and then develop an action plan. That's how I go about doing an assessment if I'm doing as a leader in an organization.
Well, that's nice because you're not only are you looking at yourself in the context of your industry and your competitors, but you're also then taking that and building that into your strategy as you move forward. So that gives you an action plan out of it. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so for companies that are just thinking about this, they're just now starting to get involved with AI, or they're thinking about building the strategy, that sort of thing. Where do you think the best places for them to focus initially could be so that they could see some tangible results fairly quickly, which of course success breeds success. So that would help them, accelerate into this program and adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually like your phrase, Michael. Success breeds success. That's why creating those initial small successes will make believers, meaning your management is going to believe,
Mm,
your organizations and teams are going to believe and align, and then they become advocates. So from
mm,
from those perspectives, creating that initial success is very critical. So the areas
mm,
I have seen in talking to many clients and also friends and in the enterprise arena,
mhm,
obviously the low hanging fruit, Michael, comes in customer service
mm,
area. That's very ripe for AI's adoption.
mm,
And you can, depending on again the maturity you have, your data access, all those that I talked about, you can have reasonable success quickly in the
mm,
customer service area. I'll give a very quick example. When I was managing the operations, global operations, the client services team was part of my organization, and we had multiple challenges. Of course, we hit 90+%
mm,
CSAT scores, and we maintained there for 2.5 years until I left, and then we were at 95%.
mm,
We had challenges in the entire customer journey when you do the mapping, the workflows,
mm,
call routing, the knowledge base. So, of course, we had a very dedicated team, but for them to get really highly productive, it took a long time because we had
mm,
too many systems. The knowledge base is scattered everywhere. So you need to become trained and learn this stuff. But now with
mm,
AI, if there, if you're looking at five different problem areas, then you can say, well, I'm just going to address the knowledge base because
mm,
AI, it can take unstructured data, streamline the information, even if the information is spread across 20 databases, right? So that's an easy one in that case. So you need to look at each one of your workflows and see which ones are right for AI. Do that matchmaking, and then where
mm,
you can get the quick ROI, which
mm,
customer service is one area. Another one is document processing, which
mm.
happens anywhere from, let's say, from contract obligations
Right.
to invoice
Mm,
processing and summarization of the documents, depending on again your business, what you are in. That's
mm,
another big area. And if you have engineering teams, the code development,
Mm,
again, if someone says, oh, you don't need software engineers in 2 5 years, I don't believe that. But
mm,
uh, what happens is you can write the code much faster. So that's another
right.
big opportunity. At least those three,
Mm,
and of course, you need to look into your business models, your workflows, and identify as part of that the 5 phase maturity model I was talking about. When you're
right.
doing the exploration, and then
Mm,
how you will be looking for opportunities for which ones are ripe, and
mm.
then doing the pilots, and then you do go to the production implementation.
Yeah. So I mean, it sounds like that the opportunities, the initial opportunities, are things around places you can reduce friction in the customer life cycle. So ways customer service, particularly, and there are a lot of good use cases there. And then things
Yep.
that you can automate fairly simply that can help you increase productivity because it frees up human capital to focus on higher level or higher order activities that are going to provide more value back to the business.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. As the one thing I forgot to mention, Michael, is as you go through the maturity curve of
Hmm.
the AI, it's a lot of companies think only in terms of the productivity and efficiency. How can I reduce the costs? But as you go through the maturity curve, AI is equally capable and important for leaders to
Mm,
think that it is for both bottom line the cost, but
right.
also to grow the top line,
Yep.
because it can disrupt and help with the different use
Mm,
models, different business models, and help grow the top
sure.
line in ways that leaders might not have thought before.
Mm. Yeah, that's actually a few weeks ago we did an episode on both revenue and profit optimization with AI, and I think that's an area maybe a little bit more advanced than some of the simpler on ramps, but that is definitely an area that's a big opportunity.
Yeah.
So we talked about data a lot, and obviously, we know data is a critical function foundation for an AI strategy. But let's just expand on that just a little bit. So, how do you think the data strategy and governance should evolve as the business matures?
The data aspect is so fundamental, as we
Mm,
talked about garbage in and garbage out, Michael. So first, before you embark on as an enterprise or even a small medium business, you want to make sure that you got the data aspect clean. I can
right.
talk about the dirty data types. From you can have incomplete data, you can have
Mm,
inconsistently formed data, you can have duplicate errors. There are unlabeled information. Even if you have a huge database, these are all what I would call as dirty data types. You need to make
right.
sure that you clean that first,
Yeah.
because if you don't do that, the AI engine, let's say you are like Netflix, and then you mislabeled
Mm.
romantic movies as comedy, or worse, as a horror, and then hey, the recommendation to Reddy
Yeah.
is going to be
Yeah, or
it's
maybe in reverse, if I'm getting, I want horror and I get romantic comedies, but maybe it's worse the other way. I want horror. I mean, I
yeah,
want romantic comedy and I get horror. That's not good. Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, that is about as clear a statement around data quality as you could get. I think so. That's good.
yeah. So you need to clean the data, and you want to eliminate the bias, because of
So,
course the data has bias, and then as countries and organizations like the FTC and these agencies, there are coming up with rules and regulations. It's very important that, hey, if you don't eliminate the bias, that's you're liable. Your reputation
Right.
could be at stake, right? Especially in areas like healthcare and financial
Sure.
services. So you need to be extremely careful. And then you want to make sure that that is either you clean the data to reduce that bias, or the alternative
Mhm.
is use synthetic data
Right.
as an alternative. So there are ways to get around that, but that's
So,
again, as you go through the maturity curve, you need to have clean data, reduce the bias. You need to have the governance around
mm,
AI that includes data. And then the other thing I would say, this is not very often discussed, Michael, but it's very important that the machine learning models, they they can produce the results, but they can, if you have a data drift, meaning you trained your models today, and over a period of time that data changes or there's a drift, the models that have been trained on older
mm,
data may be producing inconsistent
sure.
insights. So you
Yeah.
want to make sure that you are retraining the models, and
Mm,
you are making sure that the data that you're feeding into these models, you're not overfitting or underfitting. For example, let's say you trained the model. I'm giving you an extreme example that the data model was, the data was all from the Sahara desert, and then you apply after you train it and apply it in a very rainy area like Seattle, you're
mhm.
not going to get
Probably not
good
gonna be so
outcomes.
good. Yeah.
Right,
Right.
right.
Yeah.
So make sure that you address that. It's not a
Mhm.
directly data problem, but it's a machine learning model training
Mm,
problem related to the data. So make sure
mm,
that that is addressed as you go through the maturity and
sure.
or you're bringing in AI.
I mean, that makes sense, and I think one other thing you hinted on there that I think is very important for companies to think about. Obviously, governance is going to be important depending on your industry. There's going to be more regulatory oversight, and then also we know that in general regulations are evolving, and particularly in the EU with the new EU AI regulations coming into effect. So that's
Mhm.
going to have a big impact on how you think about your maturity and the things you have to put the guardrails and areas you have to focus on as you go forward. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, that's all the time we have. I could definitely keep going, but I think we probably ought to wind it up, or we're going to lose the audience. But one of the things that I want to hit before I let you go is, can you recommend somebody that you think would be beneficial for the audience, a thought leader, an author, somebody that you think is could be really influential and help them in their career, in their life?
Oh, absolutely. I'll give two names instead of one,
Good, double.
Michael. Uh, yeah, one is my previous manager. Currently, he's the Cisco's chief financial officer, Scott
Mm,
Heron. Great human being. When
good.
I look at people and leaders, I came from very humble beginnings. I value humility. I
Sure.
value people who treat other people as human beings versus in numbers, right? It's a very important trait uh, to be a great leader. Scott is one of them, and
Mm,
even though he's the CFO of a huge 40, 50 billion dollar revenue company. He has that leadership trait. Not only he is uh, unicorn type of
mhm.
CFO with a lot of knowledge and experience outside of finance, and obviously finance, but he's also a great leader. That's one. And then second one is Mark Templeton. He's a mentor to me, he managed Citrix from
Mm,
less than $1 billion revenue all the way to $5 billion. Now he retired, but at the end of the day, very humble human
mm.
being, values people. So this is something of a leadership trait I value. So I recommend both of them as someone to emulate and learn from.
Great. No, that great recommendations. Thanks. And Reddy, thank you very much for joining today. Great insights, and I know the audience got a lot out of that. So really appreciate you joining me today.
I enjoyed it, Michael. Thank you.
Great. Thanks. And that's the show for this week. Thank you all for joining. Remember to hit that subscribe button. And for more on AI and other software research reports and posts, check out the arionresearch.com/blog and /research reports. And don't forget to join us next week. I'm Michael Fawcett, and this is the Disambiguation Podcast.